Are we up on YouTube?
We are live.
We are live, everybody? Well, thank you, everybody. Welcome to this special meeting of the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority. The meeting was called for the single purpose of reviewing proposed labor agreements between Buffalo City School District and 3 unions representing the substitute administrators, teacher aides, teacher assistants, and healthcare aides and substitute teachers. As is customary, we will open the meeting to public comment on these items discussed today at the conclusion of the meeting. For individuals watching online, information on how to request to speak at our meeting is available on our website at bfsa.ny.gov. Before we begin, I'll request that Executive Director Rowe take the roll call.
Secretary Floss.
Here.
Director Sanfilippo.
Here.
Mayor Scanlon.
Here.
County Executive.
Here.
Director Hogue.
Here.
And Director Keenan.
Here.
Thank you very much. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The district has submitted 3 separate labor contracts to us for review before they are considered by the Buffalo Board of Education. These labor agreements are with the Buffalo Association of Substitute Administrators, the Buffalo Education Support Team, and the Substitute United of Buffalo. The meeting materials, including the staff report and district submissions, have been provided to you in your board packet. A copy of the audited financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2025 was also distributed by email. I have representatives from the district present for any questions you may have related to any of the items we'll talk about today. At this time, I'll ask Senior Analyst Nathan Miller to review the items for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll first start with a review of the district's 24-25 financial results. Here we go. There you go. The district's final budget included $1,082 million in final revenue. The total expenditures were $1,059.1 million. The excess of revenues over expenditures was $22.9. The budget was adopted with an assumed deficit of $83.5 million. We look at the actual results. The actual deficit at year end was $36.9 million and $4 million in encumbrances. When the financial plan was developed, the estimated year end deficit was $49.4 million. So the actual deficit being $36.9, an additional $12.5 million in fund balance that was not accounted for within the financial plan. We'll take a closer look. We'll look at revenues and expenditures, budget to actual, and then prior year actual to 2024 actual versus 2025 actual. Starters, year-end revenue, budget to actual is pretty close, $10.2 million greater than budget, and the 2 primary sources for that were non-property tax items, i.e. Erie County sales tax, favorable by $4.3 million. We point out that it's pretty dead on to what BFSA was projecting for year-end at mid-year with our quarterly analysis. This amount is traditionally under budgeted within district's budgets. It's not unusual where it's somewhat greater than budget. Additionally, miscellaneous local sources were significantly over the final budget by 5.3 or 144.2%. And what that is that a district gets a lot of administrative revenue from grants, and it's budgeted at a flat rate. And so when grants are recorded and received during the year, that general fund can record a lot of administrative fees. That sure.
When you say grants, are they federal grants, state grants, or what? You don't have that broken down or anything, though.
Well, it's mostly federal grant dollars.
Federal grants.
During the year, the new grants are typically foundational.
And we could probably anticipate that not repeating itself over the next couple of years, is that right?
Yeah. But I guess the rule of thumb is about 2.5% for, of grant revenues recorded within the general fund is administrative revenue. Moving along, expenditures, budget to actual. I could go through a few of these, but the final budget was assumed a deficit of $83.5 million, and again, the final deficit was $36.9. Variances included transportation by $5.3 million, and then I have it bracketed: instruction, general support, and employee benefits. Those were the big swings, and the primary drivers there were the ending of the ESSER funds the year prior, and the subsequent moving of quite a bit of personnel services and programs from what had previously been grant funded into the general fund. It wasn't an actual increase in spending, but it was a transfer of a continuation of spending from what had previously been federally funded into the general fund. Okay. Revenues, actual to actual, we're comparing 23-24 to 24-25. Revenues increased primarily because of state resources, New York State aid, which is almost exclusively foundational aid. It went up 2.7% or $25.3 million. And again, miscellaneous local sources actually decreased. There was less grant revenue received that year because the federal funding had expired. So the administrative fees were used. Expenditures, 2024 actual versus 2025 actual. Look at the bottom here, the excess revenues, expenditures, and other funding sources. 24 ended with an actual surplus of $48.6 million. The actual deficit in 25 is 36.9, which is a $85.5 million swing year over year. Examine some of those as well. The significant variances, again, were instruction, general schools, general support, employee benefits, driven again by transfer of program services from the ESSER, previously funded by ESSER, into the general fund. Increase of general fund positions because of that, and also because the contracts were settled and people got contractual and step increases as eligible.
Can I stop you for a minute? So in the actual 24-25 deficit of $36.9 million, that compares favorably to the amount that they budgeted for because they used prior year. And the amount they had used, they expected the deficit to be?
It was 83.5 was the budget deficit, so there's a budget surplus. 83.5.
We came in $46 million better than the plans.
And the last point there was that the other driving force behind that was an increase in the number of pupils in area charter schools. 14.9 or 9.7%. Taking a look at how fund balance changed. Overall, obviously there was a deficit, so the fund balance was reduced by $36.9 million. Fiscal year end 2025 total fund balance was $387.2 million. And I wanted to point out some of the areas there. $17.75 million of that is restricted for judgments, claims, and property loss. The number's the same in both fiscal years. And the unassigned fund balance includes $47.5 million minimum held for the Board of Education's 4% retrograde policy.
Real quick, I'm sorry, it went by sort of quickly. So charter schools increased their enrollment by 440 students
Year over year, yes.
year over year. What was Buffalo Public?
Last year, we went up about 176.
And I see with the note here that the charter is a flat rate.
It was essentially flat year over year, yeah. So that didn't have a significant impact on why the amount went up.
Thank you.
Okay. So just the assigned fund balance, fiscal year end 2025 versus 2024. grew by 17.1 million. Like I said, it would be 229 million at the end of fiscal year 2025.
And that's based on the increase in judgments?
Judgments are restricted.
All right, I'm sorry, so how did it, what made it increase the assigned fund balance?
Capital project.
Yeah, the capital projects. That's $25 million more.
That's a set aside for the, school that they're building at Buck State.
Oh, okay, okay.
Was any of this, reduction in unassigned, just conversion to assigned fund balance?
It was.
Okay.
But they show historical OPEB over a 10-year period. Payments are budgeted annually without accrual and are based on a pay-as-you-go basis. Pretty significant decrease year over year. The accrual, $335.91 million. So it's gone down over time.
So I'm going to keep zeroing in on that unassigned because it's going to be important for the years going out. So now there's 125.6 million at the end of 25 unassigned that can be used to close future budget gaps.
Yeah.
Right? And before getting the results of this year and when you had budgeted the 83.5, you would have expected that number to be 79 million. So it's $46 million higher
Correct.
than you had anticipated. Okay. Okay, so you start with 125.
Yeah.
To be used in the next 3-4 years.
Right.
Okay.
And I smile because if we don't take the actions that are clearly laid out, we're gonna use every penny of that and more.
My point.
Yes, thank you.
He'll be retired by then, though, right?
No comment.
That's not the exit strategy, right?
And the final slide here is historical healthcare expenditures, both for the retirees and for the active. Pretty interesting. Of course, active healthcare has gone up every year over this period, but it's been, both of the drivers have been constrained based on probably what they had been 10 years ago. You see a pretty big reduction for retiree health insurance way back in 1819, and a slower rate of growth there. So, wanted to point that out where they're at right now. With that, I can conclude and move on into the MOAs. There are no further questions.
So real quick, the increase in retiree, so we saw the dip, now we see it increasing. Is that just because of cost, or is that because of increased number of retirees, or a combination?
It's a few things, and Mary could probably add a lot of context to that, but some of it is the contract changes, and a lot of it is when the district reached out to the retirees and renegotiated, offering them, because they were retired, they were no longer union represented, and they offered them plan, keep what you have now, or take this plan that costs less, and we can confirm that it'll give you everything that you have in your plan, plus some other things, it would cost less, and give the retiree a little bit more benefit. So it's something that they worked on quite a bit of time now. It's constrained retiree healthcare costs.
Even with the, it's the cost that are driving it up.
Cost is really driving.
It's 100%.
May I ask a question relative to the oversight of the retirees' healthcare? Is it possible that sometimes after teachers or whoever's on the retiree benefits plan pass away, that their families continue to receive healthcare benefits?
It's a great question. We have a fairly robust audit process to avoid that in our benefits office. So, I check in probably 2-3 times a year. That's not happening.
Okay, that's not happening.
Correct.
Okay, now who do you check with? The police and, the teachers' retirement system?
I'll get you the.
Death rolls or whatever?
Yeah, she's a good auditor, and,
When you say she, is she employed by the Board of Ed, or is that an outside audit?
Board of Ed, head of benefits.
But you get an outside audit too that looks at that. well, right?
They don't look at that item specifically, no.
As far as you're concerned, though, there is someone who's paying attention to whether or
Yes.
not there's any abuse of these healthcare benefits once, a retiree passes away.
Very much so.
Okay.
But Andy, there are in some cases, particularly state employees, who are allowed to have family coverage in retirement, part of their contracts. It's not unheard of, to see, depending on what they're paying in and everything else. So
Well, I didn't know how diligent the school district is.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure we're all clear that it's not everybody in retirement, it isn't just the employee.
I'm talking about the school district.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I don't know what the contractual requirements are, who picks what, once they do retire, and who's allowed to get medical benefits once they pass.
Yep.
I just know one time we did an audit in the city of Buffalo, and we realized that there was over $2 million annually that were
Right.
still getting healthcare benefits.
I want to make a comment. That is an excellent question, and that is the kind of oversight, experience, and feedback we are going to need to carry us through the next year. Absolutely.
Are you using any outside consultants
For
for healthcare?
Lawley Group provides us with data negotiations on any problems with the main provider. Yes.
So they're negotiating for you, you're not negotiating with whichever one of them?
Highmark.
Highmark.
That's the big one, yeah.
Yeah.
The negotiations that we're self-funded, so it's the administrative fee that Highmark is, how they recoup their participation in our plan administration is just through a flat fee. It's about $6 million a year. But Wally is an integral part of communications with Highmark and any disputes and on our data analysis.
Very similar system.
No, and I understand. I guess my concern is the number of covered lives and whether or not either the city or the school district is large enough to be self-insured over time going forward, particularly with the increase in costs that are going on. That may be something that we want to look at going in and discuss with you in the future, because, it may be that the city and the school district should be looking at a different plan or looking at how they can join one of the consortiums, or we should have all of the cities going through the state, to get health insurance, and that may reduce costs, well, not necessarily costs, but risk. And I think the real question is here, you could have a few folks have some really serious problems, and all of a sudden, you have no control over your costs.
Yep.
So I'll just put that out there as something for all of us to think about as we talk about the future. Nathan, sorry for getting you off track.
Next up are the analyses of the memoranda of agreement for the three aforementioned collective bargaining units. What I'll do is I'll briefly go through the new terms for each, and then we'll look at the costs and the funding. First group are BFSA, which is part-time substitute administrators. These are typically individuals who had served as full-time teachers and or administrators, then retired. Now they're brought in as subs. Group is mostly funded through the general fund. Contract just expired, all these contracts just expired June 30th, 2025. This is a 3-year MOA, expired June 30th, 2028. Then I list out the prior contract per diem rates in the bottom here. And then the next slide shows what the contract would offer. The contract that just expired had $310 per day. Year one is a 6.45% increase up to $330 a day, then 4.55 and 4.35 in years 2 and 3. There is a savings component to this contract. BFSA members can get an incentive bonus. It was $1,000 per semester. They decided to reduce that amount to $750.
Can I ask, just when do we call in a substitute administrator? Are these only long-term disability, or you're not calling them in for a day, are you?
Every day.
Yes, and, this is an area that's marked on a list for cost reduction through better management.
I guess I don't understand how you have a principal who's out for a day, how somebody could come in and take over that position for a day, or let's say 2 days, and basically do anything, assuming that you have other administrative staff at every school, that anywhere else you would just be,
Did
you know.
take the last meeting I had with the superintendent?
But, but I do think it's an important
Yes.
point to bring up.
It is a good point, and it's being discussed internally, right now, especially as we prepare for our budget cuts for the 26-27 year. It's about a $1.9 million expenditure.
How much of that is long-term, you actually probably need a principal to come in, maybe maternity leave, or someone's out on a long-term disability?
I don't have those numbers, but anecdotally, it's half and half.
And the 1.9 is the half, or is all of it?
Is all.
So we could look to
$1
save $1 million a year.
I would not disagree.
2 questions. Who does it apply to? Principals, assistant principal, what levels? And, the second question already.
That's okay. Principals at the schools and other administrators within departments, and programs, some programs.
We don't usually use the substitute
They can,
administrators. They can
They
use it
can.
for the programs.
Yeah.
They usually don't. A lot of times, sorry, Mary Carpine.
Hi, Mary, thank you.
A lot of times, if a principal is out, the AP will move up and kind of act in the principal position for the day, and then the substitute administrator comes in as the support administrator. Certain teachers can act up too. Sometimes they don't have that ability though, which is why a lot of times I think the school buildings call in the substitute administrators. But I think there's a lot of talk in having, a more set procedure as to when the substitute administrators would be called in and what other resources can be used to kind of minimize that cost.
That was my second question. Who then decides on a day-to-day basis which positions have?
Right now, it's very loose. It's at the school level.
Yes.
Yes. It's available to all administrators. The superintendent has it on his list to address.
So is there like an acting time pay when you say assistant principal acts as a principal for the day? Do they get paid for that?
If the teachers moved up into the administrative role, they'd pay as if they were the administrator.
Oh, yeah.
They're shooting for a day.
And if they're
So
not,
Find out like where the.
It looks like there's maybe about 35 hours.
I don't know the number. I know the dollars, 1.9 million.
Yeah, and when you do, I came up with the number by,
So
you
divided
take
by
that,
300.
divided by 180 days, it's 4,300. Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously, this is something we're gonna wanna talk about when your next budget comes up. As we
So
go.
I do want to jump in for a minute. So the one thing I would caution as we look at it from the outside is, the challenge, I would say, that some of our schools have as far as, discipline, as far as, language, some other things. So, it would be great if we could find another creative way to still support the building, when the administrator, whichever administrator it is out. So I would assume that each building has a certain number of administrators for a reason, to be able to support, that student body and the staff that's there. And so, looking at success rate of Buffalo Public Schools, I would also
No, I think
look
that,
at that.
A good point. I guess the question that I would just
How do
have
we
is,
better?
how do we do it? And bringing somebody from the outside in for a day may not do what you're saying.
So as you mentioned, so there usually are repeat,
Right.
sub-administrators that go to the same building
Right.
time and time again, so they sort of they sort of know the ins and outs of the building and
Right.
that type of stuff.
And a lot of them are retired from the
They're
district.
retired from
So
the-
it
right,
actually is going to school buildings that they oftentimes have familiarity with from before they retired. So it's not like stepping into a brand-new building unknown.
Right.
Sometimes when they step in, they already command the respect of the people in the building, both
Mhm.
staff and students, which certainly can be beneficial for an administrator. But at the same time, we are still trying to be
Well,
mindful
No,
of
you
the cost.
This is a big.
You always have to look at.
You always have to look at both sides. I think the staff, how we're gonna deal with it is, I think, important. Nate?
Sure, sorry. We're sorry, Nathan.
The next union is BEST, the Buffalo Educational Support Team. Who they are, these are the healthcare aides, teacher aides, which are not received New York State certification, and the teaching assistants who have received certification. It's predominantly general fund funded by 84% overall. Contract just expired last June. This is a 4-year MOA, which would expire June 30th, 2029. At the bottom here, I include what the prior per diem rates were. There's an initial bump in year one, anywhere from 10.4% all the way to 33.7%. And then the contract terms were 2.3% annual increases last contract.
Nathan, can I ask a question?
Sure.
And the hourly rates,
Mhm.
as we're looking at them, in the 17, 18, and even low $19 an hour, it's my understanding that the city has a living wage ordinance,
Yes.
given that I was the one that helped calculate it. And it seems to me that these are below the living wage, numbers that I would have expected to see. Has there been any discussion about that? And I know in the past, we've asked these contracts to be brought up to the living wage. I remember was it garbage, the seasonal garbage folks were below. So I'm just wondering, have we looked at that and what that would do?
They're predominantly, they are above the 25, 26, but not all levels were. There were a few that were.
Well, I'm looking at the first, I think the first year, second year, and probably even the third year on the healthcare aides are probably below. And then I would argue that we need to use the number that I'm assuming they're not getting healthcare?
Not unless they pay for it.
Not unless, and so therefore, there's an actual higher living wage for those that don't get healthcare compared to those that do get healthcare. And if we need to calculate that, I'm more than happy to go back and give you, a lot of it is Boston College as a living wage calculator that I think people are using now.
But that was at the forefront of our thinking when we settled on this new contract, the 555s. It takes their average salaries from 35,000 to 43,000, for assistants, and aides from 19,000 to 22,000.
Right.
And again, well above the inflation rate. We consciously wanted to give this group of 1,000 critical employees, a higher than CPI raise.
So does that get them to a living
Yes.
wage?
But over five, it's
Not
not, they're
immediate.
not here they're not at the living wage at this point. I think that's the question, and what the
Right.
living wage will be in
Bill.
5 years
They were
is
still
another
right.
question. You know, I understand the 5% and I do it, I just have that issue that I think,
And also at these wages, 5% sounds a lot higher than it really is.
Now, would there be a corresponding increase for the teacher's assistants? Then? If you're bringing the teacher aides up to a living wage,
right.
wouldn't that
Well-
then, the assistants then generate a higher wage
Yes.
level?
You would
If they are certified?
You would assume,
You know,
I'm just pointing this out at this point, how we solve this problem, now that they've already negotiated a contract. I would have hoped, you know, before that they negotiated that we could look at, but I understand.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, the teacher assistants are, you say the average teacher assistant's 35,000 compared to an aide at 19,000. There's quite a bit of a difference because of the, requirements.
Yeah. Just for clarification, the city of Buffalo's living wage as of July 1 this year is $19.22 per hour. With this contract, healthcare aides with less than 3 years of service and teacher aides with less than 4 years of service are below that average
Right.
compensation.
That's my concern.
Yes, and in the Boston College calculation, it's actually higher than the city
Yes.
of Buffalo calculation.
It would probably be around 22, I think, or somewhere.
So do you have information, so you said current year is what you just gave us?
1920.
Do you have prior year information
I don't know.
on what that living wage
It
is?
was like, yeah, because my office publishes that part of the
Okay.
budget, so it was like 18. It actually jumped up a good amount in the last few
The
years.
way,
Yeah.
because of inflation.
Yeah.
And actually, it really is the rental costs in the city of Buffalo. You would hate to see aides not be able to afford rent in the city if they're gonna work for the school district in the city. That's.
So what did you help put in place, right?
I was the first one to calculate when the law came into effect. I actually did the methodology and calculated a few years I was brought in to calculate.
So what essentially does the law say, do and require?
It basically requires the calculation of a living wage for the city of Buffalo. And then it ensures that employees that we hire aren't hired below that living wage.
So what mechanism do we have if that's not the case?
If I may, that
Yeah.
did apply to the city of Buffalo. I know the board and the board's resolution kind of adopting the living wage ordinance is slightly different in how it was passed. I think there had been some correspondence with the last collective
Right.
bargaining agreement we went through with the transportation aides of Buffalo.
Right.
So it is slightly different, I think, at least that would be the district's position in the application of the living wage to the district per se. So that,
Well, and I would argue that the law was for all residents in the city, and that the school district didn't have the right to say, we're not just gonna pay a living wage. And then it was also directed towards anyone doing work with the city, that we would expect them to pay a living wage too. So I would argue that you need to move it up to the living wage. But I'm more than happy to understand, you know, that the board has changed their policies and things like that, and we might need to address that in the future. But it does seem to me that we do have an issue here, that these are significantly lower than what the living wage is, particularly for healthcare aides. And given that we're having such a hard time attracting people to these positions all over Western New York, it would just seem to me that we maybe need to come back. It's not that I'm saying I would vote against doing the contract, but I would hope that you could bring back to the board that we think there needs to be an adjustment above and beyond this agreement. That we need a new MOA that would help move some of this over, but you've got to talk to all of your unions. I don't want to put you in a position where, as you can see, we would all of a sudden be not having the right scale there as well. I think this is a much bigger discussion than we're making it right here.
And your points are well taken, but I would just point out that there are very, very, very few health care aides. And the portion of employees under this contract that fall under this is a very small fraction of only the newest employees.
I mean, I get that. I mean, it'd be the first 3 years that they were here. I understand what you're saying, but the whole idea of the living wage ordinance is not to have this happen.
Right.
And then if we're looking at the teacher aides, we're looking at the first 4 years for teacher aides. And I understand that you try to move them up as we go forward. And I think that that's admirable, and I don't want to make it sound like, you know, that you weren't trying. I'm just pointing that out, and we might want to discuss this after these memorandums go in. And I would ask that you do bring this up to the board when they're considering voting for this, so that know this is an issue. I'm not so sure that they.
So I guess last question, so when we look at this and the effort that went into it, did we consider the living wage stuff, or you're just looking at trying to provide an increase above the cost of living?
The main drivers were, annual cost increase above the CPI, staying within, I think, what's the total cost of this, Nathan? Is it
Which
10
one?
million or so? This contract, best contract. And trying to stay within the parameters established by the 4-year plan.
16 million, 19 million all funds?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but what Fred was saying is when you're trying to recruit, and the state is going through this same thing, we're in the process of doing a total compensation study to see where we are. So it's tough to recruit. Thank you.
Jimmy, you said that the need to get above the consumer price index is most relevant for the teacher aides in healthcare. They're all in the same union. Would it be like nearly impossible to, some jobs get 1% and other jobs?
Yeah.
In other words, it didn't sound like necessarily needed to raise the teacher assistants above the CPI, but it was more important for the other two classifications.
Historically, they've always gone hand in hand, changes in their contracts.
I'm not sure that makes a difference, but.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm not justifying anything, I'm just
Yeah.
explaining how it was done.
So
Yeah, that's
theoretically,
probably
at
what
least
we're
you could apply different percentages to different titles.
Yeah.
If that were the right thing, okay.
Nathan?
So we're still with Best. There's a couple more things I wanted to point out. It's a 4-year contract with 5% annual increases. We've discussed that. Some of the additional benefits were increased as well. There's a supplemental benefit fund, which is dental and vision. The amount that the district increased, that was $200 per employee, so $750 per employee. And employees do get group life insurance. The certain amounts were increased. This term is cost neutral. It codifies 2 district recognized holidays, that being Juneteenth and Lunar New Year, when the state doesn't do the holiday. It was already a practice, so it's not costing the district anything to put it into the contract. And we can move along to some. Okay. Sub now. Got it? There we go. One more. There we go. Thank you. The final MOA is with the substitutes of Buffalo. This is almost entirely general fund funded. 3-year MOA includes 4% annual increases, and an additional term is that the steps are based on days of service. The new term is that the 3rd step is now condensed, so it's going to take you fewer service days to get to the highest step. The last contract that they were under, increases were 1.6 or 1.7% for 4 years, depending on your educational degree. New contract is 4%, as I said. That's a brief overview of sub. I just have one more slide here, give everybody an idea of what all of the active employees paid towards their health insurance. This is just for the newest employees only. It's not, if we did every term for every employee, it would take 50 pages, but anyone that comes to the district is what they'll be paying for their health insurance. Get through that, we now have the net cost of all 3, the memoranda. General fund, the new cost compensation benefits combined are 20.2 million. When you look at what the district had already included within the financial plan, about just under 9.9 million. So the net increase in the financial plan is year one, $838,000, and cumulatively 4 years, $10.3 million. I can walk through that. I also have it on all funds basis as well. All funds is a little bit higher, includes the grant funding for the positions. Year one, the new compensation and benefits are 2.4 million. The amount built into the financial plan is 1.4, just over $1 million increase in 25-26. And extend that out over 4 years. New compensation and benefits combined are 23.3 million, with 11.3 million built in, and a net increase to the financial plan of just over 12 million. Settlements don't significantly impact the financial plan. The financial plan included 9.85 million for collective bargaining, or just under 49% of the total costs. The district has the ability to absorb these additional costs. They're 10.3 million or 51.2%. And at this time, our conclusion was that no budget or financial plan modification was required.
But these expenses will be coming out of the unassigned fund balance on an annual basis,
No, budget transfer.
budget transfer.
Yes, and the actual expenditures, I think, will be less due to, say, vacancies. Won't be spending up to that, and budget transfer, yes. We'll be able to cover, especially if you notice in year 1 and 2, they're relatively marginal. It's in years 3 and 4 where the largest difference is, and we'll address those in next year's updated 4-year plan.
So why are two of the MOAs 3 years and then one is 4 years?
And I'll defer to Mary.
Honestly, it was just in the discussions with the unions, those wound up being more preferred, terms with the different ones. I usually, a lot of times I'll go in looking kind of for 4 to kind of align with the 4-year plan type of approach, but some unions preferred the shorter term, I think hoping, I don't know, that there'd be more money in a few years. So we'll see how that goes, but we usually kind of start if we can, and then it's just however we are able to meet in the middle.
So it's pretty much at the request of the unions to go with a 3-year contract.
Agree.
A lot of times, yeah. It may be, I mean, on our end, we may ask for, like, if they're really looking for higher percentages or if they're looking for certain other benefits, there may be certain times where we might ask for a shorter term, but more often than not, I usually try to get longer terms just because that makes it a lot easier to plan.
Not sure whether to start with the big picture or the detail, but I guess I'll start with the big picture. You know, these are 3 relatively small contracts. We're going in with increases well above the CPI, for all 3 unions. And the total cost is roughly $10.5 million more than you budgeted for in the financial plan.
Okay. Yep.
Going out to 4 years. I'm concerned about the precedent sets for other negotiations that have to take place.
Yes.
You're already going $10.5 million over a plan. I guess I don't buy, well, that's a small amount, and somehow you'll absorb it over the next 4 years, because you've pretty much already spoken for your unassigned fund balances, although that's been increased based on your 2025 results, which is good. So I get, you explained the best contract, why that's above the CPI.
Yep.
And the standard of living thing. Now, I guess this gets more into the specific detail. With that kind of a concern, that you're starting with a small group, $10.5 million over plan, why would, for example, the Vassar group you know, have 16% over 3 years. What was the logic there? And, you know, I know they voted 100% in favor. So I think they're happy with it. Is the administration happy with it? And in our role as a advisory, fiscal stability advisory, should we be saying, oh yeah, board, you're looking for advice from us, go ahead and start out with a $10.5 million hole before you even have negotiated any of the other contracts?
I think your points are very well made. I think on these three, the aides and assistants, I'll tell you why that's at 5 as opposed to the 3, and even higher than what's in the 4-year plan. One, they've become, with teacher absences, they've become an even more important part of the school environment. And 2, we made a conscious decision to increase their pay over the CPI. If you'll notice in any of the over budget calculations, the vast majority of it are in years 3 and 4. The difference is like, you're saying 10 million over. I bet you 7 million is related to years 3 and 4. Years 1 and 2, they're marginal overages, which, as you've seen by our history of results, coming in $40 million better than budget, 30 million, we feel comfortable we could absorb even the worst case for years 1 and 2 of those cost overages. Secondly, to your bigger point where you say, I'll make my point on BFSA. That's a management responsibility to cut that expenditure. Until curriculum or someone else gives us a clear reason why it's improving student outcomes, I think it's just an excess cost. And that's on their list.
But why negotiate big raises
with those? That one, it was a series of 1 or 2 board meetings where every other speaker was screaming that subs do the exact same jobs as the teachers, yet their daily rate of pay is 60% of that. Some of that went into that. I agree with your third point, and I know me and Mary and Chuck and the whole team are very much on the same page. We should have got these to you earlier. And you won't see that issue with that BFSA teachers and 409. So.
I will just add to the substitute administrators, part of the back and forth with the union with those rates, I think that was kind of the focus of what you brought up with the rates and how high we're saying, especially if we're saying we can cut the cost. The comparables in some of the local suburban school districts, obviously they pull those in. They are, like in Lackawanna, it's $400 a day. Williamsville, $540 a day. They were looking for that, and we obviously were saying, there's no way we could do anything close to that. But it is something that we took into consideration when negotiating the rates with them, while having the knowledge of we should be able to exert some managerial control over the expenses while still paying them a fair rate. And as much as I know sometimes they might say, well, we'll just go elsewhere. There are a finite number of those jobs elsewhere. We are a much larger school district, so we know that we provide them much more of an opportunity within that negotiation. And I agree with Jim. With respect to precedent, they are distinctly different jobs that have been paid distinctly different wages over the course of time. So like teachers were saying something about, oh, but the teacher aides got 5%, we should. Okay, well, you could take the teacher aide wages if you want. I'm sure none of them desire to have those wages in comparison to theirs at the current rate. So I think historically we've always treated them very different, and they haven't really followed each other. It's more like teachers and like DPS and the BFSA, I think, kind of more try to dovetail off each other from that perspective, and they are the more costly unions. And we certainly approach it that way on our side too.
You have comparative data for the same type of services from suburban school districts? What are they getting per day?
What are they what?
What do they get per day to do the same thing that these are?
Well, that's what I'm saying. For the substitute administrators, that's one that I was able to pull out easily.
Yeah.
That was like Lackawanna, $400 a day, Williamsville, $540 a day. Rochester had moved up to the $350 a day. Syracuse was $50 an hour. So
Like Orchard Park, Clarence.
since I don't have all of
Lancaster.
those, this is kind of what we had just compiled quickly, in order to
So
have some data.
but for comparative purposes, these daily rates are much more lower than what
And what we.
the people are doing around the rest of Erie County.
For the most part.
For the
yeah.
most part.
And that's true for the substitute teachers too, by $20 or $30 a day. You start to look at the comparable.
So, but, you know, to Mr. Keenan's point though, as far as the cost of living going up, that these are greater than the cost of living. And the suburban school districts are way above what the cost of living is or the percentage of inflation. Right? Okay.
Can I just say something as an economist, because this is bugging the heck out of me, is that, the CPI is not the cost of living. Just, you're not gonna pass my principles 101 class, so I'm just gonna say that right out as we go there, and I hope no one's offended. But the average wage growth for last year was 4.2% in Western New York. Over the last 3 to 4 years, it's been in the fours, going right across. And if we look back even before the pandemic, probably 1 or 2 years before that, wage growth has been a whole percentage point above the CPI in every year. So if we're gonna say you should only make the CPI, what we're really saying is that we're not gonna pay you what we're paying everybody else in the private sector. And we can go down by, I can pull out all of the stuff from the New York State Labor Department by position if you want, and we can go back and calculate it, because it's something that I do with all of my students every year, so they learn how to do this correctly. But I just want to say that while 5% may be above what the average person is getting, I would hate to think that you're going to look at 2 to 3% wages for the teachers and expect you to get in at that when everybody else over the last 3 to 4 years. And state employees are looking, and you can, the contracts that I've seen are in the 4 and 4.5% range per year. So I just want us to be realistic as we look at everything here, and I think it's important for us. I can help pull out the data for everybody so that we have it for our discussions in the future.
But I think in being realistic,
Mm-hmm.
we also need to be realistic at looking for your financial plan that shows
Sure.
they probably don't have enough money for 1%, let alone 4 or 5%. So
And
we
that,
have to start sending the message.
well, and that leads us to an interesting question, is if you're not going to give raises to anybody, then are you going to be able to actually keep anyone here in the city? That was the problem when we froze wages. We locked people into lower wages, and it took us almost 10 years to get back to a point where we could hire qualified individuals to do the jobs that the city needed to do. So there's a balancing. I agree with you. We have to figure out how to get money. We also have to figure out how to make sure that we have a workforce that can actually do the jobs that we need done. You know, that makes this a much more difficult problem to have to deal with.
Especially with the type of students that you're dealing with.
Yeah, this is,
This ain't Clarence, you know, I mean, you got,
Got a melting pot.
you
but
have
I'm
a
talking
melting pot.
about both in the city
But
and in
like you say,
the
it goes back to, obviously, financial oversight and so
Yeah.
forth, and fiscal responsibility is where, I mean, it's all on our minds.
Yeah.
But then we're also talking about trying to educate poor children, diverse children, and if you're not attracting teachers to, you know, to perform those responsibilities, then you're bringing harm to the school district in its totality.
But I think that's where you talk about, the district is looking for those efficiency and cost savings.
We have to, yes.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, we're all on board with that.
And,
What is your take on the challenge of hiring and finding teachers?
Okay. There is, our latest, I just did the quarterly report, our latest vacancy report, I think we had 70 vacancies in the BTF, right? But we have 70 temporary teachers on staff that actually go in and fill those, holes in the classroom, except for the special ed area. we are having a tremendously hard time finding qualified sped teachers. Couple of things. While we're navigating through, the four-year, staying on track with the four-year plan, and having our actions be consistent with the assumptions in the four-year plan, a couple of things to note as we go up, to the BTF and BCSA contracts. Those positions are paid at or above as well as anyone in Western New York. So we're starting from a good starting point. It's not like there's any catch-up needed. Those last contracts took care of that. So that's something that we're considering as we begin these, more expensive negotiations. And a bad BTF contract could kill the district. My other point, though, regarding, vacant positions within the teachers, we have 180 teachers on special assignments. These are certified teachers who are doing administrative tasks and do not interface with the children. Teacher on special assignments is typically a one-year assignment. Some of these people have been doing this for 12, 15 years. The superintendent has also focused on putting at least 50 of those out of their administrative post and back into the classroom. So it's a multi-pronged project, but we've identified some pretty strong areas where we can take action to address all these different challenges.
So the people that will be going back into the classroom,
Yep.
are doing some type of administrative jobs. Will those administrative jobs have to be filled by someone else?
No, they will not. They will be cut from the budget. And the remaining people in those departments are gonna have to pick up the slack or maybe choose this wasn't that impactful.
Right.
Correct. And that's where we are.
You gotta balance all this and make sure you get student performance.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And deal with all the social programs in the community as well. Yes.
It's as much of a cultural change as anything. After our Besser, an increase in 400 FTEs, an increase in $200 million in contracts for, let's try this out, let's try that out. The money's no longer there. And we gotta go back to pre-COVID ways of thinking and operating.
Go back to special ed and special needs children with
Yeah.
speech pathology or occupational therapy or whatever. Are there, right now in the district, are kids being denied those programs because of the lack of your ability, not your ability, but the school district's ability to hire people, or there's not enough applicants, or? I mean, my wife was a speech pathologist at School 84, which is,
Oh, my God.
yeah, God bless her. I don't know if I can see that heartache every day, but, you know, she's retired, obviously. However, there was a lot of children, in these special need programs that if it's not being delivered for them, how is the school district try to handle it?
Our special ed, people I've worked with who are in our special ed division, do a great job. They really do try to fill the needs and make sure that everyone is still obviously receiving the required services that are set forth in their IEPs and whatnot. So certainly, we're very aware of, obviously, we don't want to get a ton of complaints saying that we're denying them a space because of being unable to provide the services. So we are very consciously trying to meet those needs and meet those service levels.
What role does the New York State Education Department play in this?
They don't supplement any funding or find us a pool of employees.
No. Do they come in and review?
Yes, oh, yes, oh, God, yes.
They work with our special ed division a lot for different compliance matters. Obviously, we actually have not had, knock on wood, a large number of due process complaints where parents are alleging that their students are denied free and appropriate public education. But that is something that we do track and we try to keep an eye on, and really they try to work very closely with the family.
So I don't want to keep us going too long, but, I love to talk. And so it's probably a combination of the ratio might not be where it should be. And you might not spend as much time with a student that you would like to be able to get that special ed student.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I'm saying in general, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm talking to you and probably asking the
Oh.
question at the same time and making a statement. That's probably where that impact is the time and the ratio. But, I appreciate that the district isn't receiving a lot of complaints, but at the same time, I would say that it's probably also a situation, which is sad, that some of the parents and guardians and caregivers aren't as actively involved in the education process. And so you have special education children that may be not getting exactly what they need, but you don't have the advocates there.
You're right, and then another factor, the severity of the, handicaps that we're seeing at the younger age are increasing, especially in our, autistic classrooms. I'm talking diapering and like basic level services. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
And the agencies aren't there like they
Right,
used to be. Like you used to be able to have some of those highest
Yeah.
need students get into agencies, and that's just not available. So it's, I think everyone really truly is trying to do the best, but it's very challenging.
Can you get us some information on what the classroom sizes were? So presumably, or at least what I've heard from some of the teachers, is we've moved from 611 classrooms to 1211 or 811 classrooms. And I guess the question is that might give us an idea of, you know, how you're trying to cover the cost and still do the best you can. But obviously for a teacher, 12 kids may be just a bridge too far, in some places.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting just to see what that progression has been. How many 611, 1211s have you had over the last, you know, let's go pre-COVID through here. So that may be part of your financial plan. It's gonna have to be really looked at, and I know, and you can help us out of that, you know. But I guess I would be neglectful if I didn't bring up our former chairman, Mills Olson's point that the city is never gonna recover if we don't have a strong school district, because people aren't gonna wanna move back into the city if their kids can't get educated in a way that they need to do it. So I'll just, say that. I guess we need to, if there aren't any other questions,
Are you done with all your questions?
They were more like comments.
Yeah, I'm joking.
but, I'd like a motion to approve the analysis and the recommendations that are given by the BFSA staff. Is there anything else you need to add, Jeanette?
You know, I thought maybe we'll just refresh, what that recommendation was, what we're asking the board to affirm, which basically repeats what was included in our financial plan report back in August, which takes into consideration, there's a lot of risks to this financial plan that we know of, whether it's a reduction to federal Medicaid reimbursement. There's a chart that Nathan put into the presentation that you have in front of you. Whether charter school tuition payments increase higher than what's built into the financial plan. There's an assortment of risks that this board discussed thoroughly back in August. So our recommendation is just to recognize that these are small contracts. We have 3 of them, and these 3 contracts use $11 million out of the estimated $25 million that's built into the financial plan for raises. So that's an important financial consideration. And our recommendation is just to emphasize what we said back in August, which is that we recommend the district develop a gap closing plan to address the financial risks that are identified. So you have your financial plan and then a side plan, basically. So that's That was the recommendation that we're asking the board to affirm.
Right, and we heard you loud and clear back then, and I saw it in writing this time. I am working on, we have our 4-year plan, especially with the big close 2 schools, cut 100 staff, close virtual pathways. Our state aid numbers are coming out, this week, confirming this year, but giving us the first peek at next year. There's issues there. I'm already working on a plan B where the cuts will be much deeper.
At what level?
Staffing, programming, maybe additional schools.
How are we doing? I'm sorry.
No. I'm just talking, obviously, the biggest cost savings will end up being teachers, right?
BTF, again, you got 250 BTF members not teaching children.
You pulled 50 out already.
Yes.
Because they're doing administrative duties?
Yes,
250, did you say?
yes. 180 in non-sped areas, 250 when you factor in the sped.
Well, who does those assignments? Doesn't the management, or doesn't the school district do the assigning?
Yes, the IT. I'm talking about well above and beyond that.
I'm sure the superintendent is looking at all of those different opportunities.
Very closely.
Yeah.
And asking great questions, and not just saying, okay, cut 100.
Right, yeah.
No, yes.
I believe he is focused on, creating a school district where we both, are meeting student achievement and that we're fiscally.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's been out in the community talking about the role that the community plays and some other stuff, and I believe him and along with the team will make those financial decisions to get us in the right spot. So I guess the last question I'll have is, where are we with the 2 school closures?
I just got a text, where am I? Get to this meeting, the board is updating them.
Good answer.
The board has been charged, and they've approved this with the board recommendation that they'll provide the names of the 2 schools at the December board meeting. I was at a meeting in person, today's Monday, right?
It is, yeah, it is.
Thursday, where we stressed how it has to occur, or else we'll run out of cash, is one part of a bigger plan. But 2, there's 10 schools amongst the 60 that the numbers glaringly show there's no benefit to anyone.
So low under.
Right. But
You said about 10?
yes, and as they were starting, what if they're careful people, what if, these are the board members' assignees. Well, what if we make a wrong decision? I go, you can't make a wrong decision other than not picking 2.
So is it safe to say, I don't want to put you in a spot, but is it safe to say that down the road we should expect additional closures? If you're saying we have 10 that are way underutilized,
Yeah.
and we're making a decision on 2, which may take us down to 7 or so, 6, depending on how we
Yeah.
spread this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I apologize, I don't recall. What did the 2 schools save us?
Oh, they'll save us roughly between $3.5 and $4 million per year for both. Those are just in direct costs. The principals, the APs, the custodian, secretarial staff, and the engineer, and then what we call CEC contractual costs.
Mm-hmm.
That's about $400,000 per school. It's significant.
Per year?
Pardon? Yes. But more importantly than that, this is the first and required step to bring capacity utilization to the remaining schools.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the 2 schools that are being cut, I don't know, it might be 400 kids. 400 kids can easily be absorbed into the remaining schools, and the classroom sizes will still be well under 25, especially when you factor in attendance every day. And it's that capacity utilization that will allow the school-based budget process to find even greater efficiencies and savings.
Look forward to it.
Okay. Any additional, if not, go ahead.
With regard to the motion, or maybe you want to get.
Oh, I was just gonna make sure we're all on the same page, that I would accept a motion to approve the analysis, which includes a review of the financial plan and our, asking for a gap plan, and approves a recommendation to approve the 3 contracts.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Okay.
Now we can discuss, now that the motion's on the table.
Well, at least now you're saying specifically that your motion is that we recommend approval of the 3 contracts. Because the superintendent, in his letter to us, asked for a thorough and expeditious review of these agreements. I think they're looking for advice. And, so these contracts are now going before the Board of Education before they can be officially executed.
Right.
So, I think in our resolution or in our communication to the board, we should be more specific, and include these concerns that we've expressed today. And I think our resolution would say that, we note that, these contracts are above whether it be the CPI or the cost of living, it's still above, that they exceed the financial plan budgeted amount by over $10 million, and that we express real concern about them serving as any precedent to contracts with the other unions, because they could, you said, ruin the school district if the other contracts are settled at this level. And I think if the board has sent this to us asking for advice, we should include that advice in our resolution.
I'm okay with it.
Is everyone okay with that?
I'm definitely okay with it.
I'm perfectly fine with putting our recommendations that you just said into, this motion. The one I would also include.
Can I just ask for a legal point of clarification? As much as we're in an advisory capacity, are we required to vote for approval of these contracts?
We're only at
Approval of it is approval of the motion.
Approval of the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what was your question?
The language seemed a little, to me, like,
We were
we're
approving
approving
the
the
contract.
contract.
No, it was just a recommendation.
Like I said, I just wanted,
If we want, that we
I just wanted
reviewed
a
it.
clarification to make sure,
No, we're
because
not.
we're in
No,
advisory
we're
capacity.
fine. But the one thing I would add, along with that, was our concern over a living wage as well.
I would agree.
Yes, in fact, I had, in fact,
Yeah.
I would,
If you want to read off something you wrote down, go ahead, Tom.
I'm sorry.
No,
me.
What is it?
Personally, I would have said that our recommendation, our resolution would be that we would recommend against the BFSA contract, because I just don't see the justification for that. Or the best, given and that they make, provisions to get to the living wage, either now or in the near future, and that the sub with the third contract, 4%, I guess we could still approve that with reservations of the precedent that it's setting. So, yeah, my resolution would actually be vote against the BFSA contract. Recommend that.
Where is everybody else?
So I'm okay with, and I'll speak for, I'm okay with the BFSA contract, especially given the conversation we had about the surrounding areas and the ability to pull in. And I know you said, hey, we're going to look at policies and procedures around how do we administer this, and so I'm fine. I'm personally fine with it.
I would vote against an amendment to what the language says.
Say again?
I would vote against his
This
amendment
amendment to the,
to the, resolution.
so we're back to the original, which is to accept.
He amends the resolution to be against
No,
the BFSA.
So far, he's against I'm just trying to get a sense
right.
of the body.
Yep.
Mark?
I understand the points. These are relatively, generous COLAs, but I also believe they're relatively low dollar figures, so I can live with it.
Okay. So, I guess to try to make this go
So
clearly.
if my
Yeah, the only,
amendment excludes the being against the BFSA,
right,
but is more specific about the concerns that we raised about, exceeding the financial plan, about, potentially dangerous precedent with other unions,
And the living wage.
and the living wage.
and, yeah.
But also.
And that's all been incorporated.
And that's already incorporated in
But
our-
also, if you wanted it on the record that you're concerned, it can be put there, it could be voted down, but it could still go forward. I'm just saying.
Right, we could vote it down, or I could ask after we do the motion that your concern be added to the report as well. So that we have a motion, but there was also this additional concern, which is.
Sounds like I didn't have a second for my motion to.
It didn't, no,
Right.
but,
Right.
so if we're all clear, just so that we have consensus, the motion is that we are going to, ask for our financial analysis, which includes a gap plan to be done to take these into consideration, that we have a recommendation to accept the 3 contracts with the following concerns, which we've stated a number of times now. Is that good with everybody?
Yep.
Okay, and we've got the motion, we have the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it passes. Now, I would ask that we put on the record the concern of Director Keenan that the BFSA contract, given, the costs, need to be considered. Do I have you down right, or do we add any more than that?
No, I mean, you could even say that I, objected to it.
And objective, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Are there any other?
Do we have enough votes for the approval?
Yeah. Nobody voted against it, so.
I didn't hear a vote. Wait,
I know.
Nobody was saying that.
Nobody abstained, so we're, are there anybody else for the good of the body have anything else they need to say? If not, are there any members of the public online that are here today? They're not. If not, this concludes the meeting of the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Tom, you can second it? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. I think this was really a good meeting with a lot of important discussion.
Plug in one day, it's like, I got something I want to say.
We're gonna get this. Well, it's important for everybody to hear this,